The rain fell in sheets that November evening, turning the grocery store parking lot into a maze of puddles and shadows. Sarah Mitchell sat on the curb near the dumpsters, her thin jacket doing nothing against the cold. At 32, she looked older, worn down by choices that had led her here, to this moment, with 73 cents in her pocket and nowhere to go. She'd been clean for 6 months now, but the demons still whispered. Tonight, they were screaming. "I don't deserve love," she whispered into the darkness, her words disappearing into the storm. She didn't notice the man approaching until a pair of small rain boots appeared in her line of vision. Pink ones, with cartoon unicorns. Sarah looked up to find a little girl, maybe 5 years old, holding a juice box and a granola bar. "Daddy says you look hungry," the child said, her voice pure and matter-of-fact in the way only children's voices can be. Behind her stood a man in his late 30s, grocery bags in both hands and concern etched across his weathered face. He had the look of someone who'd seen hard times himself, tired eyes that somehow still held warmth, shoulders that carried invisible weight but refused to slump. "I'm sorry if Lily startled you," he said, stepping closer. "I'm Marcus. We were just loading up the car when she spotted you. She insisted on bringing these over." He paused, seeming to search for the right words. "No judgment here. Just, would you like to get out of the rain for a bit? There's a diner across the street." "My treat." Sarah's first instinct was to refuse. Strangers didn't help people like her, damaged people, broken people who'd burned every bridge and let down everyone who'd ever cared. But something in Marcus's eyes stopped her. It wasn't pity. It was recognition. Like looking in a mirror and seeing someone who understood that life sometimes knocked you down so hard, you forgot how to stand back up. "I don't need charity," she said, but even she could hear how hollow the words sounded. Lily sat down right next to her on the wet curb, unconcerned about her pretty dress getting dirty. "Daddy says we all need help sometimes. He needed help once too. That's why we help now." Marcus smiled at his daughter, a mixture of pride and pain crossing his features. "Out of the mouths of babes," he said softly. "What do you say? Coffee's pretty good. Pie's even better." 20 minutes later, Sarah found herself in a corner booth at Rosie's Diner, a cup of hot coffee warming her hands and a plate of meatloaf and mashed potatoes in front of her. She couldn't remember the last time she'd had a real meal. Marcus sat across from her while Lily colored on a kid's menu, humming to herself. "You don't have to tell me anything," Marcus said. "But I'm a pretty good listener if you want to talk." The kindness undid something in Sarah. Maybe it was exhaustion. Maybe it was the warmth seeping back into her bones. Or maybe it was just that she was so tired of carrying everything alone. The words started spilling out. About the accident that took her husband 3 years ago, the prescription painkillers that started as medicine and ended as chains, the job she lost, the apartment she couldn't keep, the family who'd tried until they couldn't anymore. "I became someone I didn't recognize," she said, tears mixing with the rain still drying on her face. "I hurt everyone who loved me. I don't blame them for walking away. I'd walk away from me too." Marcus listened without interrupting, without the judgment she'd grown accustomed to seeing in people's eyes. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment, watching Lily color a rainbow with fierce concentration. "4 years ago," he finally said, "I was exactly where you are. Lost my wife to cancer, started drinking to numb the pain, and almost lost Lily to child services. I was living in my car, convinced I was too broken to fix. Then someone helped me, a stranger at a church parking lot who saw me sleeping in my backseat with Lily. Instead of calling the cops, he got us into a shelter, helped me find meetings, connected me with a job program." Marcus's voice grew thick. "He didn't know me, had no reason to care. But he told me something I'll never forget: being broken doesn't make you worthless. It makes you human." Sarah stared at him, something cracking open in her chest. "How did you do it? How did you come back from that?" "One day at a time," Marcus said. "One choice at a time. And by accepting that I couldn't do it alone." He pulled out his phone, scrolling through contacts. "I volunteer at a recovery center now. They've got beds, resources, people who've been where you are. If you're ready, and only if you're ready, I can make a call right now." Sarah looked at Lily, still coloring peacefully, completely unfazed by the broken adults around her. This child who'd been through loss and hardship but somehow remained open-hearted enough to see a stranger's pain and want to help. Sarah thought about all the times she'd wanted to give up, convinced she'd fallen too far. She thought about the voice that told her she didn't deserve love, didn't deserve another chance. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered. "You don't even know me." Marcus reached across the table, not touching her but close enough that she could feel the gesture's warmth. "Because someone helped me when I was drowning. Because Lily deserves to grow up in a world where people help each other. Because you deserve a chance to remember who you were underneath all this pain." He paused. "And because the look in your eyes tells me you're still fighting. People who've given up don't sit in the rain whispering to themselves. They've stopped talking altogether. You're still here, Sarah. That means something." The weight of his words settled over her like a blanket. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Sarah felt something other than shame and despair. It was small, fragile as a candle flame in a storm, but it was there: hope. "Okay," she said, her voice barely audible. "Make the call." Marcus smiled, and it transformed his whole face. He made the call while Lily pushed her crayons across the table to Sarah. "Want to color with me?" the little girl asked. As Sarah picked up a purple crayon and helped Lily add stars to her rainbow, she felt something shift inside her. Maybe Marcus was right. Maybe being broken just made you human. Maybe deserving love wasn't about being perfect or having all the answers. Maybe it was simply about being willing to try again, to accept the hand extended in the darkness, to believe that tomorrow could be different from today. 6 months later, Sarah stood outside the recovery center where she now worked as a peer counselor. Marcus and Lily had just pulled up in their old Honda, a weekly visit that had become tradition. Lily bounded out with a drawing, another rainbow, this one with 2 figures holding hands underneath it. "That's us," Lily explained proudly. "Daddy says you're part of our family now." Sarah knelt down, hugging the little girl who'd offered juice and kindness on the worst night of her life. She looked up at Marcus, who was watching with that same warm smile. "Thank you," she said, and the words carried the weight of everything she couldn't express: gratitude for seeing her humanity when she'd forgotten it herself, for refusing to let her believe the lies about being unworthy, for showing her that love wasn't something you earned but something freely given by people brave enough to care. "Thank you for taking my hand," Marcus replied. "Not everyone does. It takes courage to accept help, to try again. You did the hard part, Sarah." As they walked inside together to visit friends Sarah had made in recovery, she realized something profound: love wasn't about deserving. It was about connection, about people choosing to show up for each other in the darkness, about strangers becoming family because they refused to look away from pain. She'd whispered that she didn't deserve love on a rainy night when everything felt hopeless. But a single dad and his daughter had taken her hand anyway, and in doing so, they'd helped her learn the most important lesson of all: that everyone deserves love, especially when they can't see it themselves. And sometimes, all it takes is one person willing to offer kindness without conditions to change everything. The rain had stopped. The storm had passed. And Sarah Mitchell was finally home.